The wind howled across I-84 like a banshee, whipping up blinding flurries that swallowed everything whole. It was late January, and a blizzard had slammed into the Cascade Mountains without warning, transforming the highway into a frozen wasteland of abandoned rigs. The temperature had bottomed out at 15 below zero. The air stung with ice and diesel fumes, a harsh bite in the back of your throat. Headlights were useless in the whiteout, swallowed by snow that came at you sideways. Horizontal. Vicious. The deep-throated growl of a lone semi-truck sliced through the storm's fury, its engine battling the elements like a metal beast fighting for its life. Behind the wheel of that rig sat Hank Miller, a 53-year-old long-haul trucker with hands like leather and eyes that had seen one too many sunrises. His faded denim jacket hung loosely on shoulders that had narrowed from years of diner coffee and lonely stretches of asphalt. Hank had been driving rigs for 28 years, ever since his wife passed and left him with nothing but road and bills. His company had already docked his pay twice this month for late deliveries. One more strike and he'd lose his job, his truck, everything. A dull ache pulsed in his lower back, the kind that never really lets up when you spend your life glued to a vibrating seat. But despite it all, Hank Miller still stopped for folks. It was the one thing his old man taught him that stuck. You help people when they need it, no matter the cost. Before we get any further, if you believe in paying it forward, second chances, and doing what's right, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this prove that good people still exist in every corner of the globe, even in the coldest of storms. Hank was fighting through the worst part of the pass when he spotted it, a dark shape on the shoulder, half buried in the snow. At first, he figured it was just some road debris, maybe a blown tire or a piece of equipment. But as his headlights cut through the white, he realized it was a motorcycle, a big Harley lying on its side like a fallen soldier. And next to it, slumped against the guardrail, was a man. Hank hit the brakes hard, feeling the trailer fishtail behind him. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to keep going. He was already 3 hours behind schedule. Stopping here could cost him everything, but then he saw the man twitch slightly, a shiver that told Hank he was still alive. The trucker pulled over and killed the engine. The silence that followed was bone-chilling, broken only by the wind. He climbed down from the cab and trudged through knee-deep snow toward the figure. The man was huge, arms like oak trunks, with a thick beard caked with ice. His leather vest was visible under a thin jacket, and even through the snow Hank could make out the colors. Red and white. Hell's Angels. The death's head grin staring up at him from the leather. Hank should have turned around right there. Everyone knew what those colors meant, but something in the biker's eyes froze him in his tracks. It wasn't rage. It wasn't a threat. It was desperation. The look of a man who had accepted that he was going to die alone in the snow. The Hells Angels' name was Jake Stone Harrison. He'd been riding cross-country to his mother's funeral when the storm ambushed him. His bike had hit a patch of black ice, gone down hard, and now he couldn't feel his legs. Hypothermia was setting in fast. He'd been there for nearly 2 hours. Hank didn't hesitate. He half-carried, half-dragged the mountain of a biker back to his cab, feeling his own muscles scream in protest. He cranked the heat to max, wrapped Jake in every blanket he had, and poured hot coffee from his thermos down the man's throat. For 2 hours, Hank sat there as the storm raged outside, rubbing Jake's hands to keep the blood flowing, talking to him to keep him conscious. He completely missed his delivery window. Jake Stone Harrison looked up at Hank with eyes that had seen things most people couldn't even imagine. He searched the trucker's face, looking for the angle, a scam, some kind of catch, but he found none. Just a tired old man who had risked everything to help a stranger the world had taught him to fear. Jake croaked through frozen lips that Hank was one of a kind. He promised Hank would see him again. Hank smiled sadly and said he wasn't looking for anything in return. He just did what anyone should do. A week went by. Hank got fired, just like he figured he would. 28 years behind the wheel, ending with a termination notice and a handshake. He was cleaning out his locker at the trucking depot when he heard it. A sound that started as a distant rumble, growing louder, deeper, until it shook the windows. He stepped outside and froze, solid. The parking lot was filling up with motorcycles, big Harleys, chrome gleaming in the winter sun. 10, 20, 50. They kept coming, an endless river of leather and steel, until Hank counted over 200 bikes surrounding the depot. Red and white colors blazed like flags on every vest. The other workers had stopped to stare, some backing away in fear. Hank felt his heart pounding in his chest. His first thought was that he was in deep trouble, that somehow he had disrespected the club by helping one of their own. But then he saw Jake, Stone Harrison himself, dismount from a pristine black Road King and walk toward him, his limp completely gone. Jake's voice cut through the roar of idling engines. He said that Hank had saved his life when no one else would stop, that their family doesn't forget a debt like that, and they never abandoned someone who stood up when it mattered. What happened next would become legend at that depot. 50 Hells Angels fanned out across the yard and went to work. Some headed to Hank's old rig, the one the company hadn't reassigned yet, and began giving it a complete overhaul. New tires, fresh brake lines, engine tune-up. Others vanished into the depot office, where Hank would later learn they'd had a very direct conversation with management about wrongful termination. A group of women from the club arrived with bags of food, warm jackets and supplies. Someone had already been to Hank's apartment and paid his rent for the next 6 months. A mechanic was working on his personal pickup truck, which had barely been running for months. Jake walked up to Hank carrying an envelope. He pressed it into the trucker's hands and told him not to open it yet. Hank tried to refuse, his voice trembling as he said he couldn't accept anything. He just did what was right. Jake shook his head slowly. He said Hank had already paid more than he knew, that when someone gives everything to help a stranger, that's the kind of person the world needs more of, and they take care of their own. Marcus opened the envelope, his hands trembling like leaves in a hurricane. Inside, a cashier's check for $75,000. Enough, more than enough to buy his own semi-truck. Enough to finally start fresh. Tears, not of sadness, but of overwhelming gratitude, streamed down his weathered face as he gazed out at the sea of leather-clad figures surrounding him. A brotherhood unlike any he'd ever known. But Vincent Stone wasn't finished, not yet. He announced that there was one more thing. From this moment forward, Marcus Reeves had free passage and unquestioned protection on any road in America. If anyone ever gave him trouble, all he had to do was mention the name Vincent Stone and the Oregon blizzard. They would know. Oh yes, they would definitely know. The club president, a mountain of a man named Big Joe Callahan, clasped Marcus on the shoulder and said something that the old trucker would never forget. He said, "Family ain't always blood. Sometimes it's the stranger who stops in the storm, the one who offers a hand when everyone else turns away." And before we wrap things up, we have a special request for you, our amazing viewers. Comment below with these words: "The storm reveals the soul." Let's show Marcus and the world that we stand with him, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness, given in the darkest of times, can light up the entire world. And if this story touched your heart, really resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Someone who might need a little light in their own storm. Like, subscribe, and always remember, what you give to the world has a way of finding its way back to you, even when you least expect it, even in the coldest blizzard, even on the loneliest stretch of I-84. Marcus Reeves still drives the highways today, but now he drives his own truck, and every time he sees a motorcycle on the road, especially a group of them. He gives a nod, a silent acknowledgement, knowing that somewhere out there, 250 Hell's Angels are nodding right back.